But let me tell you 2 more great tips for Indonesia. Number 1 is that most of the pobbles in the whole country are concrete and round. Some of them are also metal, but yeah, concrete and round is the main thing you're gonna see in Indonesia. Then, this is the main thing I wanted to bring up here, is that the closer you are to the main island of Java, the more tiled roofs you're gonna see. So you can see that this is a tiled roof rather than a metal roof, and because Java is the richest island in Indonesia, most of the people can afford to have tiled roofs on their houses, and so you just see them almost everywhere, whereas in other islands it's really not too common. So basically the rule of thumb is the closer you are to Java, the more tiled roofs you're gonna see. Next up, we're in County Galway in Ireland, and we see one of the most typical Irish clues, which is the yellow dashed outer lines. Now you can see this occasionally in other countries like New Zealand, however Ireland is the country that does this the most commonly by far. Combine that with these houses, which are often either a pastel yellow or white color instead of red bricks, and that should be a really good combination for getting Ireland. Okay, coming towards the end of the 15 tips here, but I have a great tip for differentiating Ukraine and Russia. So Ukraine tends to be a country that almost always has the long antenna on the Google car, and you can see it's actually on a red Google car here. So you can see the kind of ghost of the red Google car taking up almost the whole lane with the long antenna here. Sometimes you can't see it, but even if you can only see the antenna like this, that's also something that's not too common in Russia. So if you see the red car, you know you're definitely not in Russia. And if you see this car where it's completely cut off the rest of the car but only the long antenna remains, it's also likely not to be Russia, although it could be. Then also keep in mind that in Ukraine you're often going to be on a highway because they tended to only cover cities and highways, and also these highways are often pretty poor quality compared to Russian ones, so with these 3 tips you should be good for guessing Ukraine. Next up we have the tip from the thumbnail, and that is that stop signs in Israel have the stop hand on them. That also includes Palestine and Jordan, but actually I realized this is about the most typical Israeli round you could ever see, so let me run through why. These yellow plates with the blue strip are very common in Israel. You only really see those elsewhere in Luxembourg and Netherlands, so that's very good. Red and white curbs are super common in Israel. Hebrew language is obviously unique to Israel, and that one's very helpful because it's so distinctive. And finally, just like Tunisia, Israel loves to use these metal mesh poles instead of concrete ones, so that is also a great tip. Okay, second last tip for the video is Norwegian lines. So Norway's one of the only countries in Europe to use yellow center lines, but if they don't have a center line on the road, then they use these long outer dashes on the outside. Now you can see these in other countries, but in the Nordics, this is the only country with long outer dashes. Then for our final tip, if you head over to Sweden, you can see that the dashes are much shorter, about half the length, if not even shorter. And also you can see that sometimes we have a reddish tint to the road. You can see this is a distinctively red road, and that out of all the countries in the world is most common in Sweden. Okay guys, that brings me to the end of the tips video. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like.